And there they go past the finish for the first time. Price has got past Ross. That's Toranas, 1-2. Bond is in third, Moffat in fourth. I think it's Harvey next in the Holden and Ford car, then James, then O'Brien. Everyone thinks it's got the first lap unscathed. Just for one car, looks up for three. It stopped on the first corner just after the start.
By very nature of its length, 1,000 kilometers in distance and 6 hours in time, the Hardy Ferodo 1000 is no sprint.
Coming in for a pit stop. This means he'll lose the lead, but he should get it back when the other front runners make their stops. The Belgian Grand Prix driver, Jackie Hicks, will take over. Scott's Pescarolo car is also in. There's Negan. The lead Torana must be on the way. And look at Moffat. He looks absolutely exhausted after his stint at the wheel. It must be hard work. There's Moffat on his way out. Here comes Jansen. He's in. What is it? Fifth to sixth?
At about 1/3 distance, the pit stops start in earnest. Most cars make 3 stops, some 4, some more when trouble strikes. If all goes according to plan, tyres are changed, fuel tanks filled, and drivers changed in less than a minute and a half.
Trouble is, if they happen a long way from the pit, the wheel might collapse from the strain. They're lucky. We've seen cars come into the pits with wheels shattered to pieces. Sometimes they don't even make it to the pit. This has probably cost them at least 2 minutes. Might have dropped them out of contention for a high place.
A soul-destroying way to quit a motor race. A warning to others of Bathurst's chilling ability to strike with sudden savagery. There'll be many more retirements, many more incidents before this day is out. The lead Falcon starts displaying signs of fatigue. The car is slowing. Moffat has another Falcon as a buffer between himself and Jansen, but the smoke billowing from the car is desperately worrying. If one Falcon can slow, so can 2. The second Falcon of Bond and Hamilton soon catches up with the slowing Moffat X car. The temptation to pass is strong, but team tactics prevail. Jansen's pit hopes for a last miracle, but it fails to eventuate. The Torana presses hard. It makes up lots of ground, but not enough. This race belongs to Moffat. It will be a fine win.
2 abreast over the last hump, down into the braking area now. Car number 1 just moves slightly ahead, and John Cummins is all yours.
Side by side on the first lap. It's the two Falcons in front. The Fords are at it again. They finished this way last year. They want to start this way again. And it's Moffat and Bond side by side as they go spearing up Mountain Straight. And now they're taking nose to tail leads from Alan Moffat, who's out there on his left. Bobby Morris is behind him. Johnson has made a great start. Peter Brock behind him. Moffat, Bobby Morris, Johnson, Peter Brock next, then Alan Price. Bob Morris shows all signs of wanting to lead. There's Alan Price here, just in front of Derek Bird. Jack Bradman well placed there. He'd be happy with that sort of position, running at about 8.
Through the haze, down towards the end of Colrod Straight. No, it's not a repeat of last year's race. It's the start of the 78 race with Colin Bond and Alan Moffat and Bob Morris standing on the gas as he comes down the inside. And Moffat tries to poke down on the inside of Colin Bond, but Morris has won the jump. Wait for the crowd reaction. Into the left hand and now back onto pit straight. The Ford side by side. Morris sideways, but he leads. The first lap completed. And he's taken the first lap prize, but Bond at the inside of him. And Brock has now moved up on the inside. And we're running 1, 2, 3, 4. Have we got a race going here, folks? On the outside through the turn, and Morris has thwarted a bit there and punched the side of the door. And leads once again, but he's got Fords all around him. Here we go. Pit stop with Alan Moffat, ready to change over for Jackie X.
Alan looking a little worse for wear.
Mechanics still bearing the mud on their backs where they've been checking Colin Bond's car, of course. They were under his gearbox. It'd be nice to find out from Alan Moffat whether he has any transmission problems or not. He must be worried about it.
Along with the rest of the changes, they changed the tyres. With this mandatory type of fueling system that certainly takes a lot longer than the rest of the pit stop.
Oh, he's really hot, isn't he?
Got a nice towel, as you can see, on his head.
Seems to be the impression in the camp that X is a little bit hard on the Falcon, that he's more used to cars like racing Porsches, which don't need quite the same loving care.
Oh, the car's on fire.
Oh, look at Alan Moffat.
The car's on fire. Alan trying to put the fire out himself with the towel that he was using earlier.
Just a flash from the overflow?
Yes, it was just a flash of oil, petrol all over the track. Some of the team with their hands burnt, some of the officials.
We have one of the Ford dealer team pit crew, is it?
It's one of the AMCO track officials, actually. Moffat's now virtually in the car trying to get things organised.
The official has his arms burnt.
Once again, I think the car won't start. They're going to have to, once again, start it in reverse. It is going now.
X could scarcely have a worse introduction to this year's race.
Over to you, Alan. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Mike Raymond.
What caused the fire, Alan?
Oh, well, I'd say CAM's regulations would be a good starting point. Maybe somebody will wake up when we burn one of these cars to the ground that we can get the dry brake system to prevent that. I don't know what started it, but it's the fact that we're vulnerable to this sort of thing. We tried to get the dry brake system. It's available in America. I don't know why we have to carry on as if we are in the South Pole all the time down here, but that's certainly an example of it, and maybe somebody else will have to burn to a cinder before we get it through.
Jackie X has lost it. Jack X has either had a lose up here.
Yes, he just overran that. Maybe he's having trouble with the brakes. He might just not have settled in, and he cannot get reverse gear. Now he's got it. Now if he gets locked in reverse, which happened to the car when it was in the pits, no, he doesn't. He's right back on the track again, and Jackie X getting a great cheer from the crowd, some of whom think it's probably Moffat. We've lost a wheel. You can see their car 65, I think it is, has gone in there, which is Rod Morris in the Escort, he and Terry Finnegan. The wheel is missed by the others.
The fans, fickle in some cases and loyal in others, stand and salute. The man who's going to go on and win the Hardy Pro. The last corner comes up. The checkered flag unfolds for the 1978 champion, Peter Brock. All cars have started. The start of the race, of course, will be affected. The outside of the circuit in pit straight, waiting for the signal and the flag to go up for the start of the 79 great race.
Bet the adrenaline is pumping right now.
1 minute to go. Oh, Moffat has made a brilliant start. He's flying and Brock is going. And here they come to that critical first bend.
We have a touch-off in the Hardy-Ferodo Classic for 79 with Peter Brock 0-5 for the Marlborough Holden dealer team. Zooming up Mountain Straight. Right behind him, Bobby Morris. Alan Moffat has advanced from 4th to 3rd, and Alan Grace. And here is our camera view in the Peter Williamson car in the small leader class. This is what it feels like in the opening corner and the first run to Mountain Straight. Oh, right sideways, Dick Johnson.
And a complete spin. Now into the pits already goes car number 12 running in. That's the Rusty French engine for Jim Keogh. Flat tyre. So we have our first tyre change scheduled as Jim Keogh brings the Falcon in.
The Ron Nixon, the AWA Camaro also running, but here's the pit activity. Oh, Dick Johnson has inverted the Ford, the Brian Bird Ford, in a very, very tough place, and that's going to cause...
Dick's still in the car too. The marshals are talking with him. He's gone into the fence there. Down the mountain. And Johnson is inside the car. It'd be very hard for him to get out there. The marshals caught with their arms through, probably helping him with the belt, I would think. But Dick Johnson has gone on the inside, a very curious place to go, unless he had some problem a little further up.
If he were going to go off there, you'd expect him to have gone off the other side of the circuit.
Yes, I think
he's this side.
He probably gone out wide and then spun and then caught it coming back in. But Evan has just pointed out the real problem. If the door is jammed, he has to climb out the other side of the car, and these cars are just shaving this by, you know, only a foot or so. And if there is any problem with Dick Johnson, I would think that we would have been notified by now. One of the marshals about to climb over the fence.
I wonder here he comes out the other side now.
There he is.
I wonder if something went wrong with the car. We might see what Dick will have a look at it, of course, because he's concerned about the damage, and he's not going to run again today. It's pretty obvious. Very bad luck. Has been the most consistent Ford driver this year. It was about his turn for a slice of good luck, but it's not going to be in 1979.
Ron Wanless now carries the hopes of Queenslanders in this year's Hardy-Ferodo 1000.
And a New Zealander by the name of Leo Leonard, who, there's our chopper shot of exactly how hard that car is wedged in against the wall. That's the Brian Bird Ford entry. And really a pity to see such a leading contender go out so early in the race.
Time span covering the top 6 cars is now 22.9 seconds. That's from the race leader, Peter Brock, back to the first of the Falcon Brigade, Alan Moffat.
John Goss returns from the pit area, goes back out onto the racetrack. And I noticed the Gary Cook Torana, a bit of pit activity on actually. Gary Cook Torana is in already. I don't think they were planning on that pit stop so early in the race. It was a tyre change. Whether or not they had a flat, we missed the car coming in.
Cook, of course, was one of the top 10. They started in 8th position off the grid.
Here we go. Third gear. Second gear. Operator, clear the road.
And here is that great dicing we've been talking about. Well, that's not a place to go dicing. Johnny Harvey, with some of these slower cars, really making the gaps appear. 15 going through. That was the car that Harvey was trying to shake himself loose from, which he has. Of course, they're still trying to get that Dick Johnson wreck off the racetrack, and that's in a terrible spot up there. With a Colin Bond-driven entry by Thompson Ford. And they've been screaming for a jack. I'm not sure if they have a flat tyre. I think it'd be more than that, but it is it could be a rear end problem. It was jumping out of gear yesterday, but it is stalled. Oh, there's another Ford. The attrition rate is high. As another car comes into the pit area, but yesterday, of course, the car was jumping out of gear, which is bad luck indeed for Colin Bond.
Colin, what happened?
Oh, I think it's the gearbox in top gear.
It's top gear. Are you going to try and repair the car?
Oh, I just put another gearbox in. I think I can get going.
Will he be out again today?
I think so.
In the meantime, let's see what's happening down the pits, and it's across to Chris Economaki.
Talking with John Fitzpatrick, Alan Moffat's co-driver. The co-drivers are all in front of a television monitor. You're watching our coverage of the race. And I said to him, John, can you learn something as a driver watching the TV coverage? And he said, yes, I've learned that our car may have shock absorber trouble. I'm going down to the pit now and see what that trouble may be. So it could be that the Falcon hopes of Alan Moffat and John Fitzpatrick are having early troubles. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, that maybe explains the reason why, because see the Moffat car dipping there in some of those bends.
And very good also to have Chris in the pits. We thought we'd lost Chris for our viewers.
Maybe we could, yes.
Prior to the start of the race, when he climbed over the concrete wall going to the pits, slipped and fell on his back and went to Bathurst Hospital for an X-ray. But he's a true pro. He's covered all the races. They could only hold him for about 3 minutes, and he was back here to the racetrack.
The oil flag out there. There's oil on the track, the yellow and red flag. There's a car parked there right in the distance. It looked ominously like one of the Camaros, but a bit hard to pick up from that side. Bad news from the pits. Colin Bond has retired. Colin Bond, you can see there, car 4, the Thompson Ford. Not going to win any votes that way, but he broke down on the way into the pits, tried to get into pit lane, didn't quite make it. The car came to a thundering stop, and it is now on the back of the truck and being taken out of the race.
Well, we will go back out. I think that what we'll do is just change the gearbox and go back out again. It should probably take them around about 20 minutes, I should imagine, to change the box.
Car running all right other than that?
Yes, the car was fine. You know, the oil pressure was good and the water temperature was great, and we were just sort of sitting there. I think we were probably in around about 11th spot at the time, and I thought, well, that's fine for this early stage of the race, and we could always go a little bit quicker later on.
Well, disappointed. Colin Bond came off 10th position on the grid and was going comfortably when he had the gearbox problem, but he hopes to get back. We've got Dick Johnson lined up. We'll be talking to him shortly. He put his car into the wall at the top of the mountain, but for the meantime, back to Mike and Evan.
Oh, bad luck indeed. This is the Ron Wanless, Leo Leonard, Denmark Ford entry from Queensland. Leo Leonard was to have started and carried out the first driving stint. And,
I think he might have carried out the last driving stint, but look at that steam, Mike.
Yes, when you're hot, but this one's so hot it's not.
It's on the way up towards the cutting, and it looks pretty terminal. You can see Leo there looking down as though he's having second thoughts about trying to get it moving, but he's had it.
Well, it's in a terrible position there too, and because the cars are coming out of the corner, they use the low line and then swing out wide. And while the marshal there is trying to see what the problem is, it'll be a very unsettling period there for Leo Leonard, and hopefully they'll be able to rectify the problem, although that's been terribly optimistic, in order to give Ron Wanless a chance, the Queenslander, who was in this race with a shot at Rookie of the Year honours.
Falcon's having a bad run. We've got
here we have Leo Leonard climbing out of the car.
Two more out of the race too. Bill O'Brien from down Canberra way in car 30. He's in the pits, and with the information is he's out of the race. And Barry Parsons in another Falcon is also in the pits and apparently out of the race. So not doing too well with Colin Bond there as well with his gearbox trouble. There's Peter Jansen going up the mountain now. He's leading Steve Masterton, who won the class last year in the Masterton Holmes Capri, and Lynn Brown in the BMW running in third place in the 3-litre class. That's how they stand in the classes at the moment. The race being led outright by Peter Brock.
I think the Wanless car must have obviously seized Evan, because they've made no attempt to even knock it out of gear or try and get it out of the way, even across to the other side of the circuit there. It's in a terrible spot. We'll let Peter fill you in.
Just gone around GDX. There's a lot of oil on the road. The Denmark Ford is blown up, and it's a sea of oil. There's more oil there than Castrol's warehouse.
But a new insight into motor racing in Australia, brought to you exclusively by the 7 Network.
And a bad time in the pits for the Brian Wood team, because Rod Stevens, his other driver, is in the back of the pits, so both Falcons in trouble. This is the Murray Carter car. Murray, who did so well last year, one of the heroes of motor racing.
I'd say that, yeah, the dry brake situation, maybe when the refueling something has gone astray.
Yes, not a scheduled pit stop though. He's been in the pits several times, and it's about his third time in, and his teammate Rod Stevens is in the back of the pits with even more trouble. So it's a bad time for this team, which is a great shame. Beautifully presented cars. And Murray Carter traditionally has been the most reliable performer in motor racing, as well as probably the most underrated and under-recognised. So very bad luck for him, being pushed away now, as you can see. Murray Carter must be a very disappointed man. Got the car going, a lot of fluid around there, so it's a push start to get him going. Now, whether he'll go out or into the pits to join Rod Stevens, his teammate, is a bit hard to say. He may take a swing to the left. No, he's going onto the track. So Murray Carter back into the Hardy Frodo 1000. And a reminder, you're watching the great race.
Oh, trouble for Roger Cartwright in car number 54. That's the Escort. Roger from Victoria, he's had a lose here, has collected the concrete wall by the look of it head on. Fortunately, he seems to be out of harm's way. Roger is out of the vehicle. And a very, very bent front end on the Dalesford Motors entry, car number 54. Bad luck indeed. One of the casualties in the small car class in this year's Hardy Pareto 1000.
He may take on fresh tyres, although with a new dry brake refueling system explained to you earlier by Chris Economaki, they'll be there for a pretty short time this time, and they'll be looking very closely at the question of changing drivers. Oh, that's the Escort we were talking about before.
Yes.
Into the fence. It looks a pretty sorry sort of mess. 54, the Victorian driver Roger Cartwright was co-driven with Greg Toffler from New South Wales, and their Escort, as you can see, has really put itself out of the race. You can see the great dent there. He's taken the nose and legs off a camel, and as the Escort, a rival brand, is about to be loaded onto the back of the recovery truck. A great trail of water from the smashed radiator running forward from the car.
That's not in a good spot either.
It's a very dangerous spot.
Particularly if they pull the car out of there, they've got all that water, because a lot of the drivers like to use the tuck in very, very close, which brings them out within only probably, well, a few centimetres away from the wall there. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's the car. Remember Terry Daly's Fury Ford Capri that we were following when we had the camera in Peter Williamson's car, and he has parked on the side of the track down at the bottom of Breville Straight, and Terry Daly.
I would say, judging by the front of the bonnet, he has parked it probably side on into the Armco rail.
Yes, it's a fairly vigorous bit of parking. You see the sand behind where he's come spearing across. Oh, and here's Colin Bond, who had changed the gearbox, and trailing smoke. Maybe more trouble in the transmission for Colin Bond, who won here 10 years ago when he won the Bright Young Hopes in racing. Goodness me, I think he ran over our backpack operator.
Chris Economaki, are you under the car? Colin Bond is in, I believe. We've had the information that through two-way communication, Alan Moffat's pit may be getting ready to put another tyre on his car.
If he's having shock absorber troubles, of course, it would be affecting the tyre wear. There's a close-up view of Colin Bond's engine, and the mechanic peering rather worriedly down behind the left-hand bank. He did have a gearbox seize. They changed the gearbox, did it in 20 minutes, went back on the track again, and now back in the pits. Smoke pouring from it. Maybe not transmission. They seem to be more concerned around the engine area, as though they're losing oil.
Okay, we're standing by to see if we're going to Moffat.
Yes, Alan Moffat has come in the pits, so things are getting very hectic in the pits. There's Moffat with another tyre change going on. The back right-hand tyre, the car being jacked up on the airlift jack.
There has to be some problem there, whether or not they've changed the wrong tyre. Looks like they're putting on the older tyre.
Yes, the tyre has been worn. As you can see, it's a used tyre that's going on. They may have been caught a little unprepared. They've got to lift the car up. They can't get clearance. Now, watch this. There's real drama. They can't fit the tyre. The car is too low, and they can't squeeze this wide Goodyear slick under the arch.
It is now.
A bit of beef gets it through. A bit of muscle there pushes it on, and now they're into place, but they've lost a good 12.5 seconds extra. Time goes on. An unexpected and fairly disastrous stop for Alan Moffat. The man who's won 4 times here at Mount Panorama, the last time 2 years ago. He's off.
Second pit stop in about 5 laps for Alan Moffat.
55 seconds the time for Alan Moffat then. A time that was added to by that trouble in fitting the back tyre. Well, the action is pouring in thick and fast, both on the track and in the pits here at Mount Panorama. There's Alan Moffat, who's made 2 pit stops, but here's the IBM printout, and these are the leaders as of 47 laps. It's Peter Brock and Jim Richards in the lead from their teammates, John Harvey and Ron Harrop. Alan Grice and Alfredo Costanza, who yet hasn't driven the car in the Craven Mile car. In 4th place in the Channel 7 Ron Hodson car, it's Bobby Morris. 5th, Barry Seaton, who made a very quick pit stop. Ahead of Alan Moffat, John Fitzpatrick yet to take over. Charlie O'Brien is in 7th place, the Queensland driver. Peter Jansen in 8th, still to hand over to Larry Perkins. Gary Cook, who will hand over to Warwick Brown, is running 9th. Ralph Radburn, that's a driver who's slipped up into the top 10 in the Toranas. In 11th place, Bob Skelton, who'll have Don Holland with him in the Torana. Keep your eye on those because they're two good drivers. This is Brian Sampson in the Recar car in 12th, 13th. Gary Rogers with Bob Stevens. Scotty Taylor's entry is next. And the first of the 3-litre cars up in 15th place. Now, that was before he parked the... sorry, no, I'm thinking of the one who was coming third who parked the car. We'll get on to him in just a minute. Lacus Manticus is in 17th. Peter Williamson leading the 2-litre class in 18th place. Quite an incredible position at this stage. Then the car that stopped. This is Terry Daly in the Fury Ford Capri, who won't be putting many more laps onto it, I don't think. And the second car in the 2-litre category is Derek Bell and Phil McDonald. Raining out there on the track, as you can see. The wipers now on with the cars. There's Alan Grice's car there. Tim Slako from Western Australia up into 22nd spot. Those of you in Queensland wondering what's happened to Dick Johnson. Well, if you're watching the race early, you would have seen him into the fence. Dick Johnson in the Falcon that many people thought would do the best of all the Fords. In fact, lost the car for the reason we haven't yet determined, but we'll get a pit report on, into the fence, and he is out of the race. I was talking about Dick Johnson. We've just had a report through as I was speaking to you. He had a front suspension breakage, which is what had put him into the fence, severely damaging the right-hand side of the car, and in fact making it very hard for him to get out of the car. Thank you, Chris. And it's raining heavily on the top of the mountain and just a slight sprinkle down the bottom. And there, you can see now the rain clouds. And here, Peter Williamson's car, you can see the rain falling and Peter thundering down through the S's. Are you listening, Peter? And can you come in and tell us what's happening up there? Doesn't have to tell us. You can see for yourself how much it's raining. He put off the wipers thinking that there was no need. How are things out there, Peter?
I might come in for that tyre change if it gets a bit wetter, and then we'll prove that time in the pits by matter.
Okay.
I'll have it, let you know.
Okay, Peter, thank you.
Lacus Manticus and Jeff Leeds, first in class in the 3-litre category, stopped, motionless. And all their hopes of winning the class 3 litres here at Hardy-Ferodo have gone. The driver, of course, has walked away from the car. There'll be no use sitting in the car there. It's parked once again in a very, very difficult part of the circuit for other drivers. One wonders what's going through the way. A lift, perhaps? I don't think so. Acknowledging the signal from another driver. So the Manticus Leeds car, first in the 3-litre class, was first in the 3-litre class before Masterton took over, is out. Well, for Ford fans, I guess the John Fitzpatrick Alan Moffat machine is certainly a sight for sore eyes. It's still in there, it's in 4th, and it's running and not really showing any faults, any flaws, despite the fact that Alan said he detected some vibration. Okay, car number 25 goes through, John Fitzpatrick.
Scott right up the top there, and a little dangerous manoeuvre, dragging half of the car along. Has certainly crunched something very hard.
Well, it's bad luck for the Queenslanders because, as we mentioned earlier, that Dick Johnson has been almost the lone flag raiser for them in terms of being totally competitive in all the touring car championship rounds this year. Responses, Brian Bird Ford, and of course for Credit and 4BC in Brisbane, and for all our Queenslanders watching, that's not good news. The other Queensland Falcon driver, of course, Ron Wanless, co-driving with Leo Leonard, was one of the first Fords out after, we think, locking up an engine solid on the way to the top of the mountain, and Ron Wanless not getting a drive.
96 laps gone in the Hardy-Ferodo, 67 laps to run. Total of 60 cars started. There are 40 left.
Troubles for John Fitzpatrick. The Alan Moffat Falcon is in trouble. Tremendous trouble.
John Fitzpatrick staggering out of the car. And that tells it all.
The thing I hate most is seeing it on that Vulture carrier, if you want to know the truth. That's really the sad part. I wish they'd leave them on the track, actually.
And wait for the reaction of spectators, the thousands upon thousands of them up the top part of the circus. Peter Brock, 0-5 for the Marlborough Holden dealer team, comes across the mountain. The man who has conquered the mountain 3 times and staring a fourth in the face. Here he comes. Listen to the applause, the accolades for a man among men when it comes to race car drivers. Still tidy. Picks up the inside rear wheel that time. Peter Brock is trying hard in this last lap. It'll be known as not only the race in which this car led every lap of the race, it'll be interesting to check his final lap.
The winner of this year's Hardy Parado, and now he has 4 victories in Australia's greatest race, Peter Brock.
Thank you very much, Evan.